Welcome back to the B2B Power Hour. Morgan, I heard something really interesting that there's these things called mental spam filters. Have you heard of them before?
As it happens, I have. I follow Will Allred. And he was talking about this for probably the past year. I think he's talked about this. And gosh, it's such an intriguing concept.
And it's funny when you first hear it, you're like, how would you have a mental spam filter? I could see when like your spouse is talking to you and you just like, but at work?
Like, how does it work? Well, today we've got a very special guest. I'm so excited for this conversation. Please welcome Arjun Pillai, SVP at ZoomInfo, to talk about mental spam filters. Yay! Hey, how are you? Thanks for being
doing
here.
very well. Thanks for having me. Of course.
Absolutely. When Will had that comment and then threw me in and I saw what you were talking about and was like, this has to be a show. Because you read all the stats right now, and they're saying the biggest differentiator. Like I was even looking at Challenger put out a really good report, and it was saying that customer loyalty comes from 50% sales experience.
Oh yeah,
the overall experience.
And price rate is 12%.
Yeah,
it's pretty straightforward, right? Sales is in many cases your first touch point with the customer, and people always appreciate the first experience. And if your sales experience is not great, then your whole experience kind of starts from there. So there's no surprise that that's how we are seeing the stats. But it's interesting that a lot of the folks are yet to kind of understand that.
How do you, so maybe to kick this off really quick, is how do you think about the buyers developing their mental spam filters? Like, why do they exist in the first place? Oof. Big question.
So you got to the big one right away. I've actually thought through this, right? Like all of us are sellers and buyers at some level, right? So I kind of put myself in the seller bucket and the buyer bucket. Back in, let's say, 2010, 2014 timeframe, when the sales engagement platforms were kind of kicking off and starting to come into real action, at that time, back in 2015, I remember somebody telling me that the number of touches you have to make for a prospect is like 4 to 7. I'm like, okay, 4 to 7 makes sense. And in 2019, I believe, I heard that it's 8 to 13. And this is based on the best sales engagement solution platform from those companies' recommendations, right? So like it's going from 4 to 7 to 8 to 13. And recently somebody told me that, they do about 37 touches, right? Like, and I'm like, okay,
37?
what do you do? Do you 37 in 60 days or 55 days or something like that? And I'm like, do you take a placard and go to the place where he jogs? Like, what do you do to get 37 touches? Right? So when you have these many touches, and again, think about it, there are 5.5 million companies in US with more than 5 employees. And how many executives are we talking about? And all these companies that are trying to sell to that decision maker band. So the amount of spam, and we can define what spam is, all of that as we proceed. The amount of spam that we are receiving is just increasing day by day. Over a period of time, it's just human nature to tune out so that we keep our sanity. So that is what is happening over the past, let's say, 6 to 8 years, where the incoming messages are getting more and more and more noisy, and our spam filters are becoming better and better, just like Gmail spam filter, in kind of removing the spams out of our life.
I heard from a little birdie that you had somebody selling you sales intelligence data, clean data.
Yeah. It's not just somebody, Nick. I get that all the time, right? Like at ZoomInfo, obviously, you guys know, most of the world know that we sell pretty much all kinds of data, and we host some of the best data in the world. And I get like, hey, do you want, in fact, Morgan, I think I have sent you a couple of screenshots while we were chatting on LinkedIn, if you want to pull that up.
Yes.
I get that a lot about, and there was one screenshot that I've shared. This is one of the other filters, but we can talk about it. Move to the one where I have actually responded back to a person saying, I work at ZoomInfo, right? Like, not this one. Last one.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Last
is
one.
also interesting, actually. Yeah, this one, if you look at it, the person is actually trying to sell me on IP to company data, which is a core offering of ZoomInfo, and we sell thousands of customers are using our solution, and the person is saying, "Hey, do you want to find who is coming onto your website?" And to which I like salespeople. I don't have anything against them. I'm also fundamentally a salesperson. So I responded back, I work at ZoomInfo, right? Like, how can I do
That's great.
it?
I
Yeah,
think if you
right. Go ahead.
if you scroll back up, Morgan, just a little
Yeah.
bit, my mental spam filter when it says, "Hey, hi Arjun, thanks for accepting," and then anything after that tells me this is spam.
Boom.
Mm.
Yeah,
Done.
Yeah.
Like if I have to scroll, it's spam. If it doesn't look like
yeah.
a text message, if it looks like a long drawn out email, spam. You know I work at
Yeah.
ZoomInfo, right?
Just to be clear, I was not trying to pull one over here. I was just being kind with that message. I
Mm.
was not, there was no boss arrogance in there. I was just, again, we are all salespeople, right? So it was more of a casual message that saying, here is I work and we are sitting on this data.
That's
The,
great.
the last one I sent is also like that, Morgan, if you want to pull that up. That came in like day before or yesterday. I cannot remember. This is
The
about selling a
chatbot.
list of, yes. So this is selling me at ZoomInfo a set of companies which are using the solutions. This is technographics data. This is another thing that ZoomInfo has and have had for like a long, long time. So I got this. I don't know if I responded to this, but I got it yesterday or day before. But I read everything. I try to respond to as many. If there is something positive, then I try to respond. Again, I like salespeople, but some of these are like ridiculously high in the spam filter. It's like boom,
Mm.
spam.
Hmm. Yeah,
The
especially
hope.
like, would you be interested in like? There's not even there's so I know we'll dive into some of like the breaking past, but it's so interesting to see how this is already hitting my own mental spam filter. I'm like, I'm not going to pay attention.
Hope your day
Yep.
is going well.
Oh gosh.
Out.
Um, was there?
Yeah. This was actually interesting. This is I responded to this person, but this person's tool did not find my response. And as a result, continued to send me emails. And to which I responded back saying, your tool is still sending me emails without realizing we have the call already set up. And then I was
Mm.
asking, like, what exactly do you use? It's time for you to change the tool. And like ZoomInfo has a tool, which is why I asked, like, what do you use? And I sold a little bit on the side after this. But yeah, that was this thing about the tool fail.
That's funny. And then was there this first great DM?
Yeah, we
What?
all of us get that, right? Left, right, and
Oh.
center. Congrats on the anniversary. Happy birthday. Do you want to buy? Congrats on anniversary. Do you want to buy? I see that you posted a picture. Do you want to buy? Like, so we get a ton of these messages. Some of them, I mean, some people do it right in the sense that they try to engage you in a conversation where they ask a couple of sentences, maybe one sentence followed up with a question where they are thinking if there is interest here. In again, I don't answer to all of them, but that is easier than directly saying, hey, can we have a demo? You should use the product. Can I send you the pricing? Like those kinds of more pushy stuff. I don't think those work anymore.
Mm,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree.
people, it hits that spam filter so fast because you can feel, especially the word. I think it even comes down to the word choice. It's because there's like, congrats on your work anniversary. That's a milestone to be proud of. Are you currently hiring? Totally
Yeah.
disconnected. You don't need to read anymore.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
If it doesn't look
Yeah.
like a text message, done.
Yeah, and in the past 3 years, I would say probably 2019 or so, I think LinkedIn's automation bots have really grown exponentially. I think right around the time of that Microsoft acquisition, whenever that was, I think that is when I saw a lot of bot activity increasing. Before that, also there were a few, as we know, but not so much. But now I think not as much as Twitter, but LinkedIn is also becoming like a very strong place where bots are being like spending their time and sending these messages. A lot of them you will immediately recognize, right? This is a bot that is sending left, right, and center. Um, and to your point, Nick, some of these words will immediately tell you that this is a bot that is sending the messages, and that will make the buyer tune out very quickly because they know that this is not an actual one-on-one reach out. It's just a mass reach out happening. Um, Again, I'm okay with mass reach out if there is at least a little bit of work that is being done. Don't sell data to ZoomInfo. That is like ice to Eskimo, the same example, right? Like, don't do that. Um, but if you want to talk data, like talk a data partnership with ZoomInfo, probably there is some interest. But like so that is the difference that I'm looking for when sellers are reaching out to me.
That's actually really interesting because I think what I see, and I'd be interested on your take on this, is like there's in the a race to automate outbound, especially at a certain deal size. I think for smaller deal sizes, particularly, there's a race to automate the outbound and then use basically templated messaging because it's difficult for sellers to spend the time. Like, is the juice worth the squeeze? If I'm only selling something at $5,000 a pop, I don't have the time, quote unquote, to personalize every message that I'm sending out. And in personalization, in this case, I'm thinking about relevance and like good messaging and not just,
Yeah.
we went to the same college together. Do you want to buy what I have? Like, that's not going to be effective. So how do you think about that trade-off at scale for approaching these spam filters, mental spam filters?
Yeah, I think I think it actually starts behind the messaging. The messaging is in my mind a little bit farther down the pipe. It starts with the segment that you're trying to target, right? I think that is where a lot of people are going wrong. At any given point in time, there is probably like what 2 to 5% of your market that is buying, and the rest of the folks are just in some contract. They're not even thinking. They're not matured enough to buy your solution. They're just there, right? And if you take this 100%, which is your total TAM, and in these 5,000 5K deals, the interesting thing is they are targeting SMBs, right? Because it's a 5K deal, and SMBs are like 60,000 to 100,000 companies just in US, depending on how you put the filters. So you end up with a TAM of total addressable market of 90,000 companies. And every day you come to desk and let's take 2,000 companies today and spam the shit out of them, right? Like, so that is where this is going really wrong, right? So if you put like 90,000 accounts, there is a small percentage, like 900 of them that are probably looking for something, 900 of them that are considering to buy something next quarter or in a couple of quarters. So you have like 2,000 accounts out of 90,000 that you have to go and approach in the next 30 days, let's say. So the key is, how do you get to that? And then think about the messaging that you can talk to those relevant people. I think that is where, Morgan, I see a lot of people going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
How true is that, Morgan, when we tell sellers, why change? Why now? If you can't answer those two questions, don't send it right now. Just, you got to do a little bit more digging. And like, how many people go and use ZoomInfo, pull data, but don't use scoops? And so they're not taking advantage of any of the like the more dynamic trigger events to really answer why now, to really prioritize that TAM. So you're starting behind. And I was in a sales training yesterday, and the gentleman said something that was really brilliant. He was talking about the airport and how they have the, what do you call them? He called them the moving carpets, but I can't think of what they're called. But like,
yeah,
like, when you're walking and you can walk on the, like, not an escalator, but
it's not a
like
treadmill,
a big treadmill.
but yeah.
He's like, have you ever tried to go and keep up with someone while they're walking on that? I was like, no, why would you? He's like, that's the problem with most sellers, is they're running beside, while the people that are using technology properly are running on those treadmills, and they're getting faster and faster, but they're not doing any more work. It's like, whew.
Yeah. That is deep.
So when it comes to, like, I would call that exercise like prioritizing your TAM or prioritizing your list. What are the things that you particularly think about at a data level or at an account level that is important to identify before you come to messaging? I know we've sort of generally talked about triggers, but like, what are the things you're looking for as you think through that?
Yeah, absolutely. You are looking for proxy information, right? That's what you're essentially looking for. What is a good enough proxy that tells me that this company could be looking for something, right? And as best as you can, then now the question is, what are the proxies that I can look for, right? And let me start off and give you a few proxies. Nick mentioned about scoops, which is like really interesting. It's specific to ZoomInfo. It's unique to ZoomInfo, but it's actually an interesting thing that we can start off. Scoops is like something that is manually curated in terms of the changes that are happening in a company. Like somebody filled out a survey saying, we are looking at purchasing a customer relationship management software in the next 2 quarters. That shows up as a scoop, right? That is a super close proxy that you can use to reach out. The other proxies, right? When I was selling chat, I had a conversational marketing platform company that I sold to ZoomInfo before. Some of the things that I looked for is we had integrations with Marketo and Salesforce and Pardot. So like, how do I find proxies? The technographics data is a good proxy for me. If they do not have a B2B website that is active enough, if they are not using a Marketo or Pardot today, if they don't have Salesforce today, if they don't have some of the relevant other technographic software, whatever those are, right? I cannot find evidences that the companies are using those. Then they are probably too early to use my product. So nobody is going to buy a chat software before buying a CRM. Like they need CRM and they probably also need a marketing automation software and use that for a few years before they are ready for a better optimization in their conversational marketing, right? So look for the technographic proxies. That's very, very important. Over the past, let's say 5-6 years, intent, and intent is like an umbrella term for a lot of things. I can go deeper. Intent data of any sort, you have to figure out what that intent data is and what level the intent data is, and then use that. So there is the third-party intent data, which is the top of the funnel intent data. Like ZoomInfo has it, some of the other companies have it. You, in many cases, intent data, you will multi-source it because depending on what kind of intent you get from one company, you probably need other intent data from other kinds of companies. So you look for the top of the funnel intent data if you want to do like a marketing, because you get another mental spam that happens is you get an intent data for, let's say, 2,000 companies that day. First of all, you set an intent topic that is way wider, right? Something like B2B marketing, right? Every single company has that intent spiking at this point in time, right? And then you use that and say, I saw that, pick up the phone and calling, I saw that you are very much interested in a B2B marketing software, right? That does not work, right? Intent is, so you need to understand how the intent is being sourced and what kind of an intent is it. If it is a top of the funnel intent, take that and push it to your marketing team, not for a cold call. Then comes the review sites kind of intent, right? The G2 and the trust radius kind of intent, which is a little bit more to the middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. They are comparing your solution with another solution. That is the time when you as a salesperson needs to reach out to them, right? Maybe a call, but probably an email or a LinkedIn message at that point is pretty good. Then comes the real bottom of the funnel intent, which is the actual landing of those accounts on your website and spending significant engagement time on your high intent pages. So again, taking ZoomInfo's example, we have a product called Websites that helps you to understand which accounts are visiting your site, what is their engagement time, which intent pages are they visiting, are they high intent, low intent, are they going to your career pages, all of that. Once they are on your website and spent like significant time and multiple people from their company is on your website, then you know that that's like super deep bottom of the funnel intent. Then you go like then you act on that data accordingly. So we talked about different proxies. These are all proxies of potentially they are willing to buy. And based on the proxy that you use and based on what stage that proxy is, you have to find the right messaging associated to that proxy and pick the right channel to reach out. I don't know. I packaged a lot there, but I hope that makes sense.
There were so many golden nuggets in there. I think we just got to go and peel it apart really quick before we keep going. And I know one of the things that we see a lot of the time is you had originally started about like technographics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you might have TAM, but what about in that TAM? You still have to go and shortlist that TAM for what's your sandbox, and the sandbox is who's going to see the most value, minimums, maximums. That is where you start just to start building your list, and that's not even prioritization. That's like bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got into you had a little bit of sales alignment, sales and marketing alignment, that taking intent and giving it to marketing and having that back and forth with sales, which was brilliant. And I've never heard anybody say that.
That's so interesting too. I don't mean to cut you off, Nick, because I'm sure you see this a lot in that low intent top of funnel data is often handed off to the sales team for some outbound motion, which when you say it aloud, you're like, oh yeah, that is kind of dumb. Like, why are we tasking SDRs on low intent leads? Basically,
you do the same for your content syndication and webinar leads too, right? Like you found this third party company who will do content syndication, and you gave like a PDF of like 4 pages of some fluffy content, and then they ran the content syndication to a bunch of people. I have my doubts also with some of these content syndication players. I have gotten the list from some companies where I got an email of a person saying that person opened and downloaded the content. That person left that company 1.5 years before. So I don't know who opened it, who downloaded it. I have no idea. But then this is the quality of that data, right? You take that and you get easy MQLs, right? You get easy like 700 leads, and you give it to sales and say, okay, now make the call. And the sales will pick up the phone and say, I saw that you downloaded this piece of content. And they're like, I didn't download this piece of content. Like, what happened? Maybe they say got this content as an email and they opened that email. That's all they did, right? They don't even remember that. And immediately their spam filters are going, who is this guy? Like, why is this girl calling me? Like, what is happening? I didn't download any piece of content. Even if I downloaded this piece of content, who told me I'm willing to buy right now? Right. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, Morgan, but that's, yeah.
No, I think you're dead on.
How true is it too? Like whether it's a webinar, like a PDF download, ebook, whatever, you don't look at what the content is on that funnel. So they might be really, really early on, which says, hey, marketing, prioritize these accounts, not sellers, marketing. But this just goes back to like how you were talking about your mental model of customers. Hey, unless you guys are using marketing, like you're setting people up to use ZoomInfo properly. You're setting people up to use sales intelligence for something that creates intelligent conversations. And it was just really nice to hear somebody say the marketing piece, because I don't. Morgan really likes to like rapid fire emails. No, just kidding.
No, I don't. No, that's a really bad idea. So one thing that comes up, and I really want to dive a little bit deeper on this, is how do you, aside from the alignment and like sort of jumping too early, and using low intent top of funnel, how else do you see sales teams misusing intent data? Because what it sounds like, and I just want to clarify where this question is coming from, is the mental spam filters are created because sellers are using automation to send messages at a poor time. So how else is intent data misused, do you see?
The key is, again, going back, right? You should understand what kind of intent are you using. Is it top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel? And then craft the messaging accordingly, choosing the right channel. We talked about it. Now, taking it one step further, the other problems that I see is people will take intent and will just randomly reach out to those companies. What is intent? Intent means that particular company is consuming the content around that particular set of topics. That is what it means. Multiple people from that company, based on a baseline, they are consuming more content than usual over some period of time. And an AI and ML system is deciding that there is an increased intent or affinity towards one or a set of topics, right? So that's what intent means. Now, you take that intent and not layer on any additional filters and will reach out. That company might not be in your TAM, right? They are a B2C company that creates shoes, and you are trying to sell like something totally different to them, right? So one other thing that I see all the time is you take the intent list and not layer on your ICP on top of it. You have to have your ideal customer persona layer that is on top of the intent data so that it tunes it to, okay, it is in my TAM, in my ideal customer list, and then reach out. So the segmentation, or you have other things that you can combine, right? Another really interesting intent data use that I've seen some of my marketing friends do is all companies that have visited or consuming my competitors' intent topics or categories and not visited my website. So that is like a really interesting audience, right? And they will go and activate against it. So it is about taking that intent and then slicing it and dicing it in the right way so that you get to the right segment rather than just getting a set of intent and just, again, spamming everybody in it.
How many people do we see that do that with Sales Nav?
Oh,
Just
goodness.
Sales Nav, they won't build out like an account list that's a prioritized or segmented account list. And then when they do their triggers, it's based on the world, not a short list.
Yeah.
So it's not, like you said, that verified TAM. And so now they're going and they're just shooting everything that moves. And of course, that's, reinforcing that spam filter because the language, people like us say things like this, or it's one thing you said earlier too, that I don't think we came back to was the message has to be for the right medium. If it doesn't match where you're sending it, like LinkedIn messages that look like emails.
Yeah.
Or like
cold calls that are clearly a script. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My
cold call webinar.
That's actually very interesting, right? LinkedIn has optimized the content to be read on mobile so much, which is why people are posting this one-liners on LinkedIn. Did you know what I said? And then there is a space, and then there is the next sentence. There is space, there is next sentence. People don't really know why that happens. It is just because LinkedIn is optimizing such posts to be read on mobile. And LinkedIn is pushing so hard onto mobile, which means if you send like an email messaging on LinkedIn, you are actually asking your customers to scroll on their small mobile device. They're not going to do that. Easier is to reach out to the delete or back button, right? So I cannot emphasize that more, Nick. It's very critical that you know what is happening on the buyer side. Where are they reading? What are they expecting from this channel? How are they being read? If you don't do that, again, it just keeps going into spam. And when it goes to spam, the companies don't get results. And instead of changing how they do it, they will increase the numbers they do it, which increases the spam. This is kind of like this vicious circle where spam is creating more spam, which is creating more spam.
Isn't that true, though?
But Arjun, I sent 1,000 and 10 people got back to me, so obviously it's working.
Yeah, just multiply that by 10 more, right? You get 100 people now, which again won't happen. But
yeah, right. Well,
that is the
when it comes to messaging, I appreciate how much you think about the strategic prioritization of a list and qualification using data and all the rest of it to sort of set yourself up for success. Because what it sounds like, and I just want to make sure, is that in many ways your messaging just naturally flows from the prioritization or the intent or the data that you have available. And now you don't have to make up as much on the spot because it feels like you're putting all of the pieces of the puzzle together, basically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When I did the outbound, I also used tools and I also did my own outbound campaigns. What I have found working is the more genuine human messages, which are brief and to the point. The ones that I don't like is everybody will, I'm sure every month somebody is updating the latest templates that have worked, right? And there was a time when this template, I'm sure you guys also got it. The last breakup email, the breakup email template was something like, one of the three is happening. You are being chased by a T-Rex. You have vanished into the universe or something like that. you are not interested. Send me 1, 2, 3, something like that, right? I mean, I have used that method of please reply 1, 2, and 3 with more genuine human stuffs, and people have responded back to me saying, thanks for making it simple for me. At some point, like they will actually write number 2 or something, and then they will write a sentence about being happy about making it easy for them. Versus when I get that T-Rex thing, I still get it sometimes. You actually piss off people on the other side, right? There's a novelty factor the first time, second time you get it. But once somebody publishes that as a template, it means the novelty is done, right? Then you take that and copy it and put it into your email. It means that you are like really amplifying the spamming now. So anyway, it's
That's
go ahead.
yeah. And especially what I imagine as we shift sort of away from SMB and into enterprise is that sellers don't recognize that you as the SVP or similar SVPs at a number of different companies, this is not the first time they're seeing that message. It's probably the 10,000th time you're seeing that message.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
complicates the landscape.
Yeah. There are so many filters that we get. Like, so I came to US in Colorado, so my number is still Colorado number. So people use the local number system on their dialers, and they will make the call to me, right? So when I see a 720 number, I know it is a spam. They are doing it they're thinking that, okay, I'm going to be feeling closer to this person by using a local number, so he's going to pick it up. And for me, every time I see a 720 number, I know it's a spam because I don't have anybody there right now. So that is one that immediately is a spam filter for me. The other thing that I get is, and this is where, Nick, I think this was the example that I wrote in LinkedIn post. I will get a call, I'll pick up the phone, I'll attend to the call, and immediately there's a silence for a little bit. And then something like a weird sound will pop up that kind of, the intention is to tell me that there is a network issue going on and somebody is going to respond quickly. But the moment I hear that sound, I know that somebody on the other side is using a power dialer and like calling 10 people at a time, and they are looking for a connectivity rate of 2%. And the moment the pickup happens, they are shuffling to kind of connect to that particular person at that time, right? And when that happens, I'm immediately like, boom, nope, not there. It's also interesting that how many people don't leave me a thoughtful voice message. I don't hear voice message, but I read those transcripts because it's so easy, right? I just, okay, quickly two lines. It's easy for me to read. So interesting that how many people don't think about leaving a thoughtful voice message that at least prompts me to look at their email next time I see that. Anyway, so I combined a spam and then an opportunity together there.
Cold callers, it has been said, the voicemail is not dead.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you get like, we've seen plenty of cold callers do this of like, hey, it's Morgan, I'll call you back tomorrow, thanks.
Yeah.
And
what is the
for
use?
you, like why are you leaving that, especially if you're trying to layer on different levels of approach, especially to a buyer or a buyer persona like yourself? Okay, great, thanks for calling, Morgan. I don't know why you're calling me. I'm not going to pick up. It's a 720 number.
At least leave your company's name or your name and then say one sentence and tell that I have sent you an email. Drop me something that captures, you have my attention for like 3 seconds there. Use that. Don't just waste it away on things like, I'm going to call you tomorrow. I'm like, okay, thank you.
I've seen a lot of people win with so what was the reason for reaching out? When they have, like you said, the right proxy, that right dialed in observation, scoop, whatever it may be. Hey, I saw this. I'll save you some time and I'll throw it in an email for you. There you go. Like, at least you're like, piques your interest. And now it's like, okay, I'm going to go look for that, because you must get hundreds, if not thousands, of emails a day. That now you're going to look for it.
Yeah. Or at least when I reach there eventually, I'll immediately connect, oh, this is the guy I read on that voicemail, right? So there is at least that familiarity that you're establishing. That is the whole point of multi-channel, right? Whether it is an ad that is coming as an air cover to me, again, back to the sales and marketing alignment. ZoomInfo, we launched this recent feature, which people are starting to use, thankfully. Sales has the ability now to ask marketing to give air cover to the accounts they are targeting via the platform itself. So they can choose a set of accounts and click one button. It automatically goes to our marketing OS platform, and the campaign dynamically goes to these people. So that's again a multi-touch, multi-channel approach, right? And when I see an ad, I'm like, okay, there is this whatever, like Everstream, I'm making it up, right? Everstream company is there, and then I saw the voicemail Everstream, and then I'm seeing the email saying this is Morgan from Everstream. I'll at least give it 5 seconds to know what this company is actually doing. That is where you start to see that reply rate or open rate and engagement, click through, all of that happen, which again is the proxy for potentially there is a buyer on the other side.
But that's so interesting because so many marketing and sales leaders do the latter half of what you just laid out without doing the first half of what you walk through.
Yep.
Because now
Yep.
it's not just here, buy our product. We get pitches, and I'm sure, oh goodness, you do too, in our inbox of like, we're so great. Look at how amazing we are. You should buy our product. And it's like, I don't really care. So what? And now it's, you have a prioritized list, you're using different levels of intent data, you're using your proxy data to craft your messaging, and then you're doing the multi-touch, multi-channel campaigns that feel far more relevant and are likely actually relevant than just some sort of crazy all at once, here's the 2,000 accounts in our TAM, let's burn it all today. Yeah.
To the ground.
That's Morgan, just adding on to your point, right? That's actually a very interesting point. One other mistake that I see all the time is there's a marketing team, there is a sales team. Marketing team has their own TAM and targeting. Sales has the same. So sales will hit 2,000 companies and marketing will hit another 2,000 companies, nothing to do with the first 2,000. Right, and neither will get any results. Essentially, they'll get something, and at very low efficiency, the CAC to LTV ratio does not make sense at that point in time. But they don't really recognize that, hey, the point is to kind of come together, work on the same 2,000 list. It's not that difficult to align on a set of accounts before you go and run all these campaigns and spend all this time and money on it. You would be surprised at how much the needle will move if you can do a weekly meeting aligning on accounts targeted across sales and marketing. And you would be surprised how many companies don't do it.
Well, we've been in those sales meetings, and we've heard marketing told us to go and call these people, but they never heard of us, and I don't know why I'm calling them.
That's probably the content syndication example that I said about, right? Like, they got like 700 leads and making the call, and like, I am Arjun from Everstream. What is Everstream? Like,
I don't remember. Who are you? Why are you calling? Goodness. The other thing that pops into my mind, which I want to ask you about, is as we've sort of talked about like preparation. So this is sort of like in prep for your first campaign. As you move into deployment and execution, like what are the things that you are watching for in maybe a mirror way that are proxies that you are either hitting the mental spam filters or you're dodging them? And I'm sort of really thinking specifically like revenue's great. We all like qualified pipeline, but like what are the like leading metrics that you're really paying attention to?
Yeah. No, that's a very interesting question. There are you have to start with leading indicators, because pipeline or closed revenue happens like 3 months, 6 months, depending on your sales cycles and all. You might not know for 6 months that you are failing. So that's always not the right thing to look at from the start. I look at the open rate for sure. If your open rate is like at 12%, 20%, it's not good, right? Once it hits that 40%, that is when you are like, okay, something is starting to work. And once it hits that 60%, that's like, okay, I'm doing good. If you're getting 65, 70, then you're doing something extremely good. Hopefully, again, taking this to somebody sent me some subject lines that is like somebody's in danger kind of a line. I opened it, and inside that was a sales pitch. Open rate, if you look at open rate for that email, it'll be 85% or whatever. but you will piss off that buyer so much that you will never sell. Just the open rate will be there. So don't do that, but have open rate with decent small words of subject line, like 4 words, subject lines, maybe a question, maybe a question mark, some personalization based on the company name, person name. You get the open rates high up. Once you get there, then you focus on whether there is click-through rate, whether there is a reply rate. Those are the additional stuffs. Even if they are saying, sorry, I'm not looking to buy something here. If you are you able to generate that level of engagement from the people? If yes, then there is something working on your messaging. Then it's again back to your segmentation. If people are engaging and responding but not buying, then it's back to that account targeting. So you have to look at some of the leading indicators like this, and that's how I approach it. And I also look at, when it comes to cold call, I look at connect rates. If my connect rate is only 1%, then I'm probably not doing something great. If I'm getting something closer to like 5%, 6%, then I'm like, okay, that's not bad. If I'm getting more than that, I'll be extremely happy about it. But at least that should be there. So those are some of the numbers and the leading indicators that I look for. And specifically, I would look to see, again, the emails that I'm sending, and I correlate to the website visits that I'm getting. Are the accounts that I'm targeting, are they coming to my website using one of these IP to company resolution system? That is another thing that I look for all the time. Then LinkedIn visits is another thing that I look for, right? Like I will send a message and I will go and visit that person's LinkedIn, sometimes send a connection request to that person. Did that person visit my LinkedIn back? That is another proxy that I look for. So there is no like a silver bullet. You look at this, make it hit this number and it's going to fly. It is always, that is where a human intelligence is still needed on top of all these sales engagement platforms to actually get the full results that you're looking for. So Morgan, does that answer your question at
Oh
least to an
yeah,
extent?
definitely.
Yeah.
That was great. I always love benchmarks like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
I'm
found the
sure
same
these
thing with
benchmarks move
LinkedIn.
all the time. Go ahead, Nick.
Hmm.
We found the same thing with LinkedIn, and it was interesting peeling back the numbers. And I think that's maybe something that's missed in enablement is, what is this signal, so that we can be proactive and, like you said, not waiting 6 months to know that we're in trouble. Oh no. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
under 30% connection rate is a credibility crisis. People just don't see you as a credible source, or they're assuming that you're spam.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so
100%.
30 to 50, it's getting better, but you need to work on your messaging or your segmentation.
Hmm.
Above
Yeah.
70% or above 50 to 70, you're doing great. Just keep
Right.
keep
Exactly.
going.
Yeah. The other thing that I look for is the domain authority. Almost on every monthly basis, I look for the domain authority. There are so many. If you go to Google and search for domain authority, you get so many websites. You go and put your company's domain into that and see if there are greens that are going into yellows or reds in some of those websites. If yes, then you are certainly not only going into a person's spam, but also to the technology's spam. It's going into Gmail's. The first thing is Gmail will move you from the primary inbox into your updates folder. That itself will get your open rate down and response rate down and all of that. You don't want to end up there. And worst case, they push you into the spam, then you're like at that point, then you have to do a lot of work to get your domain out of that mess to all the way up to the high authority. So I keep checking that also. That's like not a super interesting leading indicators for success, but it's certainly an indicator for fail. If there is something going wrong there, then you will definitely not succeed.
I'm
That's great.
wondering, Morgan, just for the last little bit here,
Hmm.
do we want to just cover more in-depth triggers, the trigger events, like maybe some of the top 5 that you look for? So
Sure.
I could see like them, they're going, yeah, we'll give these back to marketing to go and keep marketing them. But what should I be looking for as a seller as a really good trigger event? So I know, like, we talk about ratios. So if they have a 8-to-1 manager or seller to manager ratio, that's pretty healthy. As soon as it gets over that, they might have retention issues. And it's,
Yep.
stuff you learn from doing a win-loss analysis. But
Hmm.
what are your like 3 to 5 go-tos when somebody's, even just getting ZoomInfo and you're like, hey, if you want to get the most out of this, this is where you need to invest?
You mean from a team standpoint or the usage of the tool and the process standpoint?
Yeah, like the proxies. So like what
Oh, okay.
categories of proxy on the mid to low funnel
Yeah.
that you're looking for?
Yeah. One thing that I absolutely encourage people, especially using ZoomInfo or a software like ZoomInfo, is like especially about ZoomInfo, right? There are literally hundreds of attributes in there. So you have to first go and check what all are the filters that you really have at your disposal. Like we have things like truck drivers and number of trucks in a fleet. That is an actual filter on ZoomInfo. The rate of growth of the company, you can do like negative growth or positive growth. You can say 50 to 100% growing year on year. That is like a filter. There is another filter on the marketing OS platform that says if they are in evaluation stage or if they are in purchase stage. So it's a journey or funnel stages, right? So you should first go and look at all the attributes that you have available. Obviously, all the attributes might not be relevant to you. And then you figure out, okay, this attribute is relevant for me. Come up with the set of full attributes that you have at your disposal that will make sure that you get to as close of a proxy as possible. And this includes, going back to the question, Nick, the triggers also. We have scopes and intent, and we have topics that 4500 standard topics. You can request for custom topics. So you look for all of that and then look for the kind of things that your existing customers have done before buying your tool, right? Did you see that they would go and hire a marketing coordinator before buying your marketing tool? If yes, then that is your trigger, right? Now your question is, how do you get that from a proxy data from ZoomInfo or like something like ZoomInfo, right? So then it would be a scoop of an executive change or an executive hire. Then you look for that as your trigger event to start reaching out. So look at your existing customers, look for why they bought your software, going back to win-loss analysis. What changed at their companies that made them buy your product? Then see that pattern establish over 20-25 pin-loss interviews, and then uh, figure out what data proxy for that change, and then listen to that. Maybe you get it from one data source, maybe you'll have to overlay multiple data source, maybe you need to have a manual intervention layer in between. Figure it out and then look for that and then go.
Could not say that better ourselves. Woo, that was great. I believe we're at the end of the time. This power hour has just flown by. Arjun, thank you so much for joining us today. I think, one, I've learned a lot, which is always a great time. And also, two, I've appreciated so many of the ways you've articulated the utility of data in, as you said, human intelligence. Like, we as humans have our own brains. We don't have to exclusively rely on the AI or ML programs that we're paying for. So, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. This was a hoot. The time flew by, and let's do this again at some point.
I love that.
Absolutely. Dive a little deeper into some triggers and some other fun stuff. I'm in.
Sure.
I'm in. Thank you very much. And we will talk to you later.
Take care, guys. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.